Hello and welcome to Big Deal. Now today we are going to put the spotlight on Blackstone's real estate investments in India. Now talking about Blackstone's real estate assets under management across the globe, it is to the tune of over $580 billion. And out of that, $20 billion has been invested or has a market value in India. Let me welcome on the show Kathleen McCarthy, who's the co-head of Blackstone Real Estate globally. Kathleen, always a pleasure speaking to you and welcome to CNBC-TV18. First, let's begin. We are in the early part of 2024. How is the real estate sector looking in your view for this particular year? And what are the factors on your radar to really take a call on the investment decisions?
Well, thank you for highlighting in your opening the size of our portfolio, because it's that nearly $600 billion portfolio with all of the data and insights and proprietary information it provides that we get a lens into what's happening in the economy globally, and it helps inform all of our investment decisions.
Yes.
Today, we are seeing ourselves headed toward a more favorable environment. Inflation really moving into the rearview mirror, a more supportive environment as far as rate stability. And what we think that means is that the pressure that has been on commercial real estate assets caused by the rate environment is moving to more favorable and supportive territory.
Right.
And what we see is that what you own matters because different sectors are moving at different speeds. But overall, we see strong economies, and we see very favorable fundamentals ahead in terms of supply in different sectors that have been the favorite asset classes, like rental housing or logistics. Those are, we see new supply coming down sharply, and so that we think is setting up for a very supportive environment going forward. As far as the transaction environment, there's certainly been a lot of volatility. Volumes were down last year. We were very active, but that's because we don't wait for an all-clear signal. We, in these environments, think we do some of our best work for our investors, really using our scale capital, our insights, our experience in lots of markets with complicated situations that may be fast-moving. And through that, we invest in our highest conviction sectors.
All right. So you spoke about a whole host of things and factors on your radar. Now, this particular space is interest rate sensitive. And you said we are getting into a more stable, regime economically. Can you extrapolate on that? Because the understanding, or at least the markets, had baked in sequence of rate cuts actually for this particular year. But some of the commentary really coming in from FOMC as well as the inflation numbers do suggest that that is a goalpost that could get shifted. How do you see this and the impact on real estate because of the way interest rate cycle is going?
Well, the higher rate environment that we have been living through has definitely put pressure on real estate valuations. But when we look at all of the data coming out of our portfolio, as well as what regulators and other policymakers are looking at, again, we see inflation subsiding. And we see that in our own companies when you look at rates of wage growth, job openings, different input costs, and where they're heading versus where they have been. And so we think that we're in an environment where we're not going to see rates climb higher. Now, to your point, they may not head downward so quickly either, for a whole variety of reasons, including that continued strong economic data, as well as the fact that these are human beings. They don't want to make a mistake. And so our view is that it may not be a straight line path down. And so what's happening in terms of creating a better environment and a better opportunity for buyers and sellers to kind of meet each other with transactions is just kind of a view coalescing that there is not going to continue to be so much volatility and that the rate growth is really behind us.
All right. So at least it's not increasing. And the downward movement will be defined by several factors. But you did also mention about the supply-demand dynamics being in your favor. Now, add to that the China factor, the kind of real estate crisis that we have seen. How does all that really mix up in terms of your investment decisions across the globe? Because you have a very large portfolio across the globe, and India is a very small piece in that.
Well, India is certainly a market that is a high priority, high conviction market where, as you noted at the beginning, we have invested a lot. We have a $20 billion real estate portfolio, and we hope to do a lot more.
Yes.
Our method of investing really starts by zooming out and looking at macro trends. Yes. What's happening in the way people are living, working, shopping, traveling, spending their money. And then we try to invest in the real estate assets that are benefiting from those changes and those mega trends.
Yes.
And so globally, our highest conviction theme has been logistics, warehouses.
Yes.
Here too, we're just getting started as there's so many opportunities on the ground.
Yes.
And we look at our portfolio, which today is 42% logistics, and we still see very strong fundamentals. And that's been driven by e-commerce, as well as the fact that you see this shift in terms of the different patterns of supply chains.
Right.
And so in our portfolio, we're benefiting in terms of generating cash flow growth because as you sign new leases, that's off of prior leases that were set at a different time and in a lower rent environment.
Yes.
And so our investors can benefit from that. At the same time, and when I talk about the opportunities ahead, what we see happening as a result of the higher cost of capital and higher cost to build is new supply coming down sharply. So in the U.S., we've seen new supply come down by, as far as new starts, by about 70%.
Right.
And here in India, we're just at the beginning stages of seeing what the opportunity is for logistics assets.
Yes.
To give you a sense, the entire country of India, 1.4 billion people, has half the amount of logistics warehouse supply as the city of Chicago. That has 2.8 million people. Yeah. So we're just getting going, but we think that's a conviction theme that we can continue to invest behind here. Right. And one of the things we love about India is that so many of the things that we invest behind globally, data transformation, digitization, the movement of goods online, propensity of people to travel, we see these as opportunities to continue investing in India as well.
All right. So you spoke about logistics and warehouse. And of course, there is a huge headroom for growth in India. And GST has done a lot to attract global investors like yourself to really come to India and look at this particular space. So you're not the only one. I would say that there is a lot of competition in this space. A small part of your portfolio right now is in the warehousing space. So give me a breakup. You were very big on the commercial office space, and you have also benefited from it in terms of returns, value unlocking as well, which is one of the cornerstones for investments, right, for an investor. So how do you see now your entire breakup of segments in real estate? Are you going to invest more in office, or are you going to focus on warehousing, and which are the other areas?
Well, you highlighted a lot of investors are now turning their attention to India, but we've been here for a long time.
Yes.
This office we're in today, we opened in 2006, and in particular in the office sector, we really saw an opportunity after the global financial crisis when so many investors had really left the market. And we did here what we do everywhere, which is try to build great businesses behind this conviction idea. In office in particular, we've had much more enthusiasm here than we've had in other parts of the world. And that's because we see global companies coming to India, trying to attract this highly talented, English-speaking, well-trained population. And so we've built a series of office companies and investments. As you highlighted, we recently had the last share sale out of Embassy REIT, which is a company we created as the very first REIT in India, pioneering that market. We're grateful to have had an opportunity to work with the government on creating the legislation that enabled REITs to take hold here. And we continue to be interested in that sector. Again, we don't see any abatement in the interest of global companies to come and find great talent in India. But that's just one of our themes here.
Right.
We today have also a retail platform, also a company we've taken public, a Nucleus. These are urban consumption centers that are benefiting from the fact that you have a growing middle class, young demographic. E-commerce is gaining steam, but brick and mortar retail is doing really well here in ways that it isn't elsewhere in the U.S. And some of that goes back to the real estate fundamentals. You have the demand, but you don't have the oversupply we've seen in countries like the U.S. or in Europe. I mean, again, to give you a comparison stat, I think in the whole country there's something like 70 million square feet of retail space, modern retail space. In the U.S., it's something like 8 billion. So in a country that's growing the way India is, we continue to see so many opportunities there.
Yes.
I mentioned our interest in data centers, the fact that also there we're just starting a platform company that we feel there's so much opportunity ahead, as we see around the rest of the world.
Right.
In data centers, we have really been leaders. In the U.S., we took a company called QTS private in a $10 billion transaction. It was the biggest data center investment anyone had really ever made. And now we've grown that company's leased space by 6 times.
Yes.
And that's all with the most prominent technology companies who are supporting businesses all around the world in moving their information to the cloud, protecting data, processing digital payments, and of course now with the explosion of AI. So these are, all the kinds of themes, and also others that we haven't really yet tapped into in India. I mean, the amount of travel that we see already starting to happen, that we see growing in India, both with the domestic traveler and the rest of the world wanting to come here, huge opportunity in a very underserved market.
Yes.
We bring experience as the most active investor in hospitality assets in the whole world. We have $40 billion worth of those assets today. And we bring that expertise into this market and see that as an opportunity ahead.
All right. So you have named almost all the spaces, and you're bullish on all of them in India. Which will be your top priority if I have to choose between warehousing, hospitality? You mentioned retail and office space. You're already very big in it. Which will be your top priority in India, or at least attractive proposition?
Well, you're asking me to choose among my children. So as I said, we invest globally in these high conviction themes. We see opportunities to invest in them in India, and also the sectors like office and retail, where we've been more cautious in other markets.
Right.
We have $65 billion of dry powder. And so the luxury we have is that we don't have to choose among them a favorite. We will always look at where are the best opportunities, and where do we have these advantages that our longstanding business here, our deep and talented team, and the portfolios that we have that give us data. We can do multiple things at once, investing behind all these sectors.
All right. So $65 billion of dry powder. And at a time when China is going through its own rough patch, is India to benefit hugely because of this?
Well, I think of these as 2 separate things. We have invested in India, as I said, for almost 2 decades now. Right. And what we are accessing in India is all of the terrific conditions as far as the growth and the population and the business climate, as well as the strong real estate fundamentals.
Yes.
China is going through a tougher economic patch, but I would say I don't think these are related things to some degree.
All right. So how much could be an investment in India, or at least you have proposed at this time in the near term?
Well, we don't set any specific targets. We look for these thematic ideas and best ways to express them. And again, India is a priority market for us. And so the only limitation is the great ideas that our team can surface for us.
All right. We'll slip into a short breather, Kathleen, but hold on to your thoughts because we have lots more to discuss. You pioneered the REIT segment in India, and it's now becoming very big. So other exit opportunities also we'll talk about. So that's after a very short break. Stay tuned to Big Team. Welcome back. You're back on Big Deal, and we are in conversation with the global co-head of Blackstone Real Estate, Kathleen. We were speaking about a whole host of areas that you're interested in and that you have dry powder, but you have been spending a lot of time in making returns, maximizing your exit opportunities in India, and REITs have given you a very good opportunity. Are you going to make way to REITs with more of your office spaces in your portfolio? Are we to see more REITs coming out of Blackstone's portfolio now this year?
Well, taking a step back, the capital we have is entrusted to us by the most prominent institutions in the world: pension plans, sovereign wealth funds, charitable foundations, and endowments. Right. And our work is to both identify great investments, and to add value, create value by building great businesses, but then also to send the money back to them. And what we have been able to do with the REITs we have taken public in India is demonstrate to the world market, and certainly our investors too, that not only can you find great things to do in India, but you can return the capital at the end. And I think that creates a much more supportive environment for attracting capital to this market. And it's a real testament to both what our team has been able to build, but the fact that the India market is maturing. I think REITs will be a part of our exit plans for our investments, but one of the things we always keep in mind is that there's no one path when we make an investment. We, across the world, exit through public markets, private markets, asset sales, portfolio sales, and I think we'll be doing all of the above in India.
Right. So, Kathleen, just want to ponder a little more on REITs because it has come to another inflection point, I would say. Does it give more confidence to investors like yourself about this particular asset class and for investments in India with the kind of block deal exits that you did on the REIT platform worth over 7,000 crore rupees in Embassy Real Estate?
Well, it's certainly been very exciting to see the evolution of the investor composition in the REIT. And Embassy is a great example. When we started, it was really primarily international investors, institutional investors coming in, seeing what we saw in terms of the quality of the portfolio and the growth opportunity. Fast forward to this most recent exit, and you have greater diversity in the investor base with primarily local groups and local individual investors. And so I think that's just part of the maturation process. And you're right, it's very confidence-inducing for us and for other investors just to see that the capital markets are getting to be much more dynamic and that there are multiple ways to exit investments and to multiple different parties.
Right. But when we talk about the Indian real estate, the government's policies, of course, the SEZ amendments had recently come in, which is a good lift up to the real estate space. What are the government policies and also towards REIT? They have made it a much simpler, asset class. Are there more measures that needs to be taken? What do you think about the government's policy as a large investor in real estate?
Well, I would say one of the reasons we have really favored investing in India is because of the economic climate that I think has been supported by the government. I mean, to have high growth, strong demographics, young population. I think your population here is 10 years on average younger than in my home country in the U.S. And the fact that we've seen strong growth and a government that is really trying to help continue to make those capital markets more dynamic, more opportunities both to enter and exit the market. And when you look at the climate overall, we talked at the beginning about the inflation and interest rates. Here it's actually been quite a different picture, right? Quite stable interest rates, quite stable inflation. And we think that just creates the conditions and the constellation of factors that make the market very attractive to us.
Right. But you'll still continue to invest in office spaces in India, or have you got saturated over there?
Absolutely. When we make an exit from an investment, it's not us saying we are done. It's just we're saying that in particular investment, the value creation story has finished and it's time to return the capital to our investors. So I absolutely hope that we'll find more great investments in office and all of the sectors that we love here.
But Kathleen, for one whole decade, we saw Blackstone Real Estate keep on beefing up the portfolio, went on investing on an overdrive to become the largest landlord, so to say, in the country. But after a point, your investments have been tepid. Your exits and returns have been the highlight over the last few years. This year, are we going to highlight the year more with exits, or are there investments lined up?
Well, I think everywhere in the world we do both at the same time. And in particular here, there's been strong demand for the kinds of businesses we've built. Yes. And so it's our job to really lean into that for our investors and create those exits for the capital they have invested with us and then we into India on their behalf. Right. But we do expect to be active in this market. And as I said, the conditions globally for the transaction environment we think are getting more favorable. As everyone can kind of see that we're entering into a different phase, a different evolution of the environment, and we expect to be very active here.
All right, so we are expecting you to be making investments, making big exits for this year. Any particular challenges that you face in India which needs to be worked upon?
Well, India, like so many markets in the world, has its own idiosyncrasies. And that's why it's so powerful and so helpful to our business that we have been here for a very long time, since 2006. I was talking to someone the other day who said we talk to a lot of investors who are looking at India, yes, and you, Blackstone, are doing in India. Mm-hmm. And I feel really proud about that, because that is our job for investors, is to build our own team, build our own capabilities so we can capitalize on these opportunities. Yes. And so I feel very strongly that we are in a very unique position in this market. And you're going to see us be able to take advantage of opportunities in ways other people just cannot.
Very rightly, you have pointed out one point that is now the overriding theme when it comes to foreign investors in India, is that everybody is deploying much more than they have been in India, because the focus towards India has been just so robust and much more attractive now. When we talk about Blackstone overall, is there a kitty that is going to make way to India, and a large part of that from real estate? So are there any numbers to share from that regard?
There's, again, no particular number that we put on it. But when we think about our conviction themes, I like to say we have different sectors, and I've talked about those at length. But India is a whole conviction market, and that's why you see us so active and deploying into all of our themes and even more here in this market. And so, again, we have $65 billion of dry powder. Right. We hope to deploy a lot of it in this market. It's part of why I'm here supporting our team and all the work they're doing. Yes. And there is global support at Blackstone for more investment in India.
All right. So that's an overriding theme, that Blackstone Real Estate, Blackstone overall is bullish on India and are going to deploy more. But how does it feel in a male-dominated sector? And I have tracked this sector very closely way back. It is a male-dominated sector. And you are one of the only woman leader in the world with almost $600 billion of assets under you. How does it feel? What are the challenges? And what do you think this means in terms of being exemplary for the others?
Well, I have worked in real estate for over almost 25 years now. And I would say throughout that whole time, yes, I've typically been surrounded by more men, but I'm highly encouraged by the fact that there are more women moving up into leadership positions and a very deep bench behind it. And some of that's because of the real investments men and women have made to make sure we have greater gender diversity, both in the pipelines of people coming into the industry straight out of university. That's where we do our most hiring. But then also supporting women on their career journey. And I'd say for me personally, it hasn't really mattered from my perspective that most of the folks I'm working for, my mentors and sponsors, have been men. What has mattered is that we work at Blackstone in a culture where hard work, good judgment, caring a lot, taking care of one another, taking care of our clients, and working in alignment with our mission to deliver for our investors. As long as you're working in alignment with those values, great things can happen for your career. And that's what has happened for me at Blackstone. And I think we're trying to create that for many more women to succeed with us, and then set that example, to your point, for the rest of the industry as well.
Right. And as a woman leader, what are the basic tenets that you see in a candidate or a talent before hiring? You were in Bangalore and you've met up with a lot of candidates. How's your experience and what do you look at?
You're right. We were in Bangalore yesterday meeting with graduate students at a university where we do a lot of recruiting. A lot of our great talent here and in other parts of the world came from this university. Right. And we look for just pretty basic things. Intellectual curiosity, hard work, ethic, and grit. People who have a strong ethical, moral center compass. And folks who, again, really feel like they want to be part of the mission we have to deliver for our customers. And again, real estate is one way people can do that. At Blackstone, there are so many other avenues. We invest, as you know, in companies and in credit. And there's an entire ecosystem of different kinds of roles and responsibilities you can have. But as long, all of us, I think, share that those kind of key characteristics and values, and that's what we look for in the candidates we're hiring.
All right, excellent points there. But Kathleen, definitely you'll inspire many more women to join the real estate sector in some capacity or the other. It was great chatting with you and to get your thoughts. And definitely Blackstone being bullish on India is a confidence booster over here because you have been present for such a long time and you want to invest more. So thanks so much for your time, and thanks for joining us right here on CNBC TV18. With that, it's the end of this episode of Big Deal. Thanks so much for tuning in.